Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. We're doing automating in Civil 3D, dealing with our project annotation. We're going to be talking a lot about an add-on tool called Label Genie from CTC Software. My name is Kyle Groves. I'm an EIT, a senior technical specialist here at ATG USA. I'm a Civil 3D certified professional, an Autodesk certified instructor, and of course that EIT. With my product expertise in the Autodesk environment, it's got some AutoCAD, some Civil 3D, SSA, and InfraWorks. So these are the things that I can help you with. I got a team with lots of great skills in the Autodesk environment that can help you out with whatever services you need, ranging from production to training to mentorship and support. Today, this is what we're going to go over. First off, we're going to talk about our problems that we're dealing with in out-of-the-box Civil 3D. What's wrong with our current annotation workflows? What are the frustrations? And then we'll talk about how to solve that by overviewing the Label Genie tool from CTC Software and how we're going to address those issues with the out-of-the-box workflows. Lastly, I'm going to demonstrate those using various labeling workflows. We'll be looking at a subdivision project, and we'll also be looking at some plan, profile, and section workflows too. So what is life like in Civil 3D for people trying to do annotation these days? Well, simply put, labels are extremely expensive. They take a lot of time. And even with the power of Civil 3D styles to update that information dynamically, we've got a lot of situations where we're running a lot of clicks. We are adjusting the position of those labels when they get overrun by each other. We do have the opportunity to build AutoCAD fields within our MTeX, within our M leaders, but that's really tedious to do in bulk. It's great once or twice, but if I had to do whole subdivisions worth of lots for putting MTeX fields in, I would be having a really bad day. And the other kind of issue with this is it's a lot of repeatable stuff. We're doing the same thing over and over again as far as the same labels are going on the same layer, they're sharing the same style, they've got the same justification. So when we have a lot of this repeatable stuff, it's really great to get automation involved. And then, of course, we have to deal with our AutoCAD annotation. Is this annotative? What are the annotative scales I have associated with that object versus our Civil 3D stuff, which is more dynamic and it's always going to be annotative, but sometimes that can still be in the way. So that's our problem. How we're going to help out with that problem and give some power and some time back to our users is through Label Genie. Label Genie's job is to automate the creation and the management of your labels based on certain logic and criteria. So we're asking ourselves, what object gets the label? How many files are we trying to apply these labels across? Do we have specific viewports we want those labels to go in and be associated with? What do we want for the formatting? Justification, size, offsets, labeling, or sorry, layer control, things like that, all manageable within Label Genie. And with Label Genie, we've got a ton of different label types that can be automated. The tool is going on its about second year in live use for the public, and there are so many different label combinations. It's going to be tough for me to get through most of them here in just this single hour that we're asking for you today. Another awesome thing about Label Genie is it handles both AutoCAD and Civil 3D based annotation objects. So if you have polylines, you can throw down Civil 3D line and curve labels on them, or you can create AutoCAD MTeX or M leaders that are going to be based off of those objects as well. And lastly, Label Genie is using your standards in your templates. It's looking through for your AutoCAD annotation dimension styles. It's looking for your Civil 3D label styles and so on. So we're not inserting any of our own content for you with that. You bring your own styles. We bring you the ability to automate those workflows and manage that stuff in bulk. Ultimately, with Label Genie, we understand that not every single situation is going to be covered or is going to look perfect, but we're trying to get you from 0% to 80%, 70% really quickly. And then you can manually tweak a couple of those labels if they weren't quite perfect for those unique situations as they arrive. So I'll give you a little preview of what we're going to see inside the software. So how are we going to use Label Genie? What is it going to look like? So when you download these tools from the CTC or in the US, the ATG website, you're going to get a new ribbon tab, which you'll click on the Label Genie command, and it's going to pop up this dialog box right here. So Our first question that we want to ask ourselves when we're using Label Genie is, how big is this operation? We can label things in our current drawing. We can include multiple other drawings. They don't even have to be open. So this means that as long as we're following CAD standards and we have repeatable ways for finding this information, then we can do an entire project to create hundreds, thousands of labels in a very short amount of time with only a couple of iterations of this tool. So the second thing that we're going to ask ourselves is, what type of label are we creating? So we're saying, what type of label? In this case, I'm looking at surface spot elevations. Yes, I'm labeling the surface, but I'm going to label that surface where I find something else, maybe a feature line, maybe a polyline. I can choose that by filter. I can choose what points along that I'm going to go. Do I want the vertices? Do I want high points, low points? Do I want endpoints, curvature, points of curvature, points of tangency? Do I just want to go every interval 50 feet along that object? Lots of different options for what we're labeling and where it's going to go. Next, we're going to ask ourselves, what type of formatting, what type of contents do we want for this label? What we're seeing here is the second page of that surface spot elevation dialog, or that surface spot type. And so we have different contents that we can put in that. We can add AutoCAD fields directly to MTeX labels. We can even do a little bit of overwriting. This is actually an older screenshot I didn't get a chance to update. We'll see that a little different in the tool today. And then we get to ask, how is this going to be formatted? So this is a Civil 3D label, very straightforward. Most of this formatting is handled by our Civil 3D label styles. When we're looking at AutoCAD stuff, we'll have justification, text size, couple other different options for how that's going to go down. And then lastly, once we have all of those other questions answered, we're going to add the labels. But Label Genie is better than just adding labels. It's also going to update the labels. It understands what it has previously created. And if your conditions have changed, let's say you went from labeling something every 200 feet to labeling something every 400 feet, it's going to delete the content that no longer applies to your current filtering criteria. So it's going to add, it's going to update, it's going to delete, and it's going to be able to apply all of that with this logic. Lastly, when we're using Label Genie, we know that a lot of these situations are repeatable. If I have plats to put together as a surveying firm or as a professional at a firm that does survey, I know what type of labels that I need. I know what type of styles I want to use. I know what type of layers I'm going to anchor that and find that data for. So I can save these out and I can load them back into my next project. Might have to tweak something a little bit here and there, but overall, I don't have to continue to spend time constantly rebuilding these every time I want to do something else. So now that we've talked about what Label Genie is, some of the fundamentals of how we're going to use that tool, I'm going to show you, we're going to talk about the workflow that I'm going to hop into the software here in just a few minutes. So first off, we're going to look at some section and some profile view labeling. This is a little bit newer functionality inside of the Label Genie tool, but we can now put up a whole bunch of those different labels in, not just in plan view, but also section and profile. Label Genie now has the ability to label pipe networks for us. We can do that in plan, we can do that in profile. Because our networks have so many different scenarios based off of those parts. Some of them are existing, some of them are proposed, some of them have different materials. We care about different information in plan versus profile view. We can map that all up using our Civil 3D parts lists. Then I'm going to go through, I'm going to do some stuff inside of a subdivision. We'll do a little bit of lot labeling, we'll do a little bit of area labeling, and kind of parcel calling out and management with some blocks. We'll look at a couple of grading plan situations where we can label various design elements with some elevations from a surface along, say, that feature line for your side lot or along the center line of your ditch. We'll throw down some spot elevations and some slope labels too, related to all of that data. Lastly, we'll look at how to apply these labels to an entire plan set, dealing with multiple files all at the same time. In this situation, I'll probably do a couple of station offset labels for other features like, hey, this tree, what is your station? What is your offset based off of a particular alignment? And then I'll also show some of the newer features with using Civil 3D general notes with Label Genie. So that being said, folks, it's time to go ahead and hop inside the software. and get to getting, as they say. So like I said, I'm going to start off here in a, hold on, something is covering up my window. So first situation, let's look at some of this ability to determine whether or not we're labeling something in plan view, in profile view, or in section view. So this is a reasonably straightforward, long straight road job. We've got some storm networks in green. We've got some sanitary networks in magenta. We'll be tying into a couple of existing parts that we need to call out in plan view and profile view with both of those different types of networks. I've got a couple of different network or different profile views. And then I've also gone through and I've put together some various data as far as where my vaults are going to be. And I've got some electrical pedestals and junction boxes. Some of it's polylines, some of it's blocks, but we're going to take a look at how to manage all of that here using Label Genie and get introduced to the logic of the tool. So let's go ahead and let's start in profile view. So like I said, you're going to go out to the CTC website. You're going to download the CIM Project Suite. We've got a 2-week full functionality trial. Nothing wrong with your file. After that trial expires, no one's going to know that you used it. There's no sort of ransomware in these tools. But you're going to download it. You're going to check it out, and you're going to go find the panel for labeling, though we definitely have other tools for survey, pipe network design modification, grading, corridor use, some QTO and tabling stuff, and then an alternate plan and profile workflow using a tool we call Sheet Generator. Label Genie, though, is pretty straightforward, and it's all by itself in the labeling panel. And now we're going to start looking at what we're going to do. In this case, I'm just going to be looking at my current drawing. We'll look at multiple drawings or how we deal with Xref data later in the webinar. So for here, getting started, I want to analyze what the type of label I'm going to put together is. So to start off, I'm going to go really straightforward. We're going to do these polylines and these blocks in this profile view. So the first label type that I want to create is going to be a piece of mText. However, in general, this tool is capable of doing about 100 different labeling combinations, different scenarios. So we have alignments. We can insert blocks as labels. We can now put down AutoCAD dimensions using this tool, Civil 3D notes, mText and mLeaders, pipe networks, things in profile or section view, as well as dtext, and then various surface labeling scenarios as well. Right now, I'm just going to stick with the mText. So that's my label type, but I have to attach this label to something in my drawing. So in this case, I know that this red thing is a hand-sketched polyline living in my profile view. So what I want to do is I want to go anchor this new label to a polyline. I'll find that from my anchor object dropdown. And then when I click on this ellipse, I'm now introduced to the filtering capabilities here inside Label Genie. So with this particular combination, we're really only looking at layers for what to include or exclude. I could type it in if I knew what I was looking for, maybe use some wildcards. So asterisk, vault, asterisk. And there are 32 objects that fit that criteria, but I'm going to be a little bit more specific. I'm going to use the green pick cube. I'm going to go select that object right away. And it looks like it's on the layer C-vault. Oh, hey, and those are the 32 objects that I was looking at earlier. So that's my anchor object. I can always go back and review that through my object counts ellipse. And then my anchor point is where do I want this to go? So I can use the origin of that polyline, I can use the centroid, or I could put it down on every vertex. In this case, I'm not too cluttered, and I'm going to actually put that down in the centroid so that this label is going to land in the middle of that vault object. My last question that I need to answer right now is where am I going to put these labels? I can do this within plan view, within profile view, or within section views. For now, for starters, we're going to go into the profile view. So this is all what I want. Now I'm going to look at how I want it to look. So that's where we kick ourselves over to the formatting tab. And in this case, I'm building a piece of mText. So I could come in and I could say, I could just add in a piece of custom text and I could call this a vault. If I wanted to put in a new line, I can do that. If I want to put in some extra text, I can do that. Whatever I choose, the rest of these are all various mtext AutoCAD fields that I can use associated with this object. I can put those in too. Or if I want to delete any of that stuff, I simply select it from this right category and press my delete key to get rid of it. So right now, I'm just going to stick with the word vault. I'm going to use my standard AutoCAD annotation style. I'll let my drawing figure out where that layer is going to land. I'm going to keep this as annotated. You know, my justification, my rotation, all of that type of stuff, I'm going to leave that as is. And here in profile view, this can get a bit bigger. So I'm going to use a 0.16. No offset. I want that exactly in the middle of my centroid. And then I'm going to add a background mask too, just in case I'm writing on top of something else. It's going to go with that. So I don't have any objects to annotate. Polylines, see vault, profile. Aha. So when you're choosing your plan view or your profile view or your section view, you do have some extra filtering criteria that you need. So right now, I could grab all of these profile view objects that live on a particular layer, but right now they're all the same style. So that's what I'm going to choose for my profile view. Anything with that P view style is going to get these labels. Now I can come over, add update, and it's going to give me 7 of these. Then every time I run the tool, it's going to tell me how many were created fresh, were any already existing but got updated based off these new criteria, or how many of them got deleted because they no longer match the criteria that I'm using. So if I come over here in profile view, I can see I have that vault object. It's right in the middle. If I manually move it on top of the profile view grid, I can see that my background mask is working. And I've also got that yes checked in my properties palette. So that was as the tool was told to do. And that showed up exactly where I told it to everywhere. Now I may want to come in and not have my vault label right on top of my part. And I can just adjust that 1 or 2 at a time. That's exactly what we're here for Label Genie. It's going to provide you with getting these in. You're going to come up with some decent rules for everything, and then find those couple of exceptions and manipulate them to your heart's content. So the next thing that I want to take a look at is how I can manipulate these junction boxes. Now with these junction box blocks, I do actually have some attributes, but they're invisible. So even though I select this junction box, the attributes are showing up, they're populated, but they're not actually displaying. So I'm going to take advantage of those. And that's what I'm going to do with my next scenario is I'm going to now do those blocks in profile view. Sorry, that was the wrong tool. So now in Label Genie, I'm going to come back over here. I'm still creating a piece of mtext. I'm still anchoring to polylines. Actually, I'm not anchoring to polylines. I'm anchoring to blocks. Which blocks, we might ask? Well, I'll go find that object's name, and I'll go label that same block every single time. Now, if I had more that I wanted to do, I simply need to add a comma, add a space, and then go back and retype that data in. For now, it's just the one. So I'm going to label that junction box. Again, I'm going to stick with the centroid of that. And in profile, it's the same profile view. Now for my formatting, though, I need to check out my aha, here they are. So these attributes are now going to show up. They're part of my my contents list. So I've got my type, I've got my size. I'm going to add my type, and then I'm going to add my size. They're now going to show up in my piece of mtext. I'm going to leave most of the rest of these settings, except I don't have quite as much space. So I'm going to drop that down to 0.1 on that. I'll add an update. I'll say yes to proceed. And it put them all in there. That's not quite the formatting that I wanted. So now let's see how Label Genie handles the update of various labels in here. So really, I wanted a line break between my utility type and then my size. So I'm going to go into Label Genie. No big deal. It's going to remember all of those settings from the last time I did this. But what I want to do is I want to take a new line component, and I want to add that in to the label that I'm building. And I'm just going to click and drag to rearrange it to go in between my type and my size for that particular junction box. I say add update, nothing new. I didn't add any blocks. I didn't get rid of any blocks. It's just going to update those 10 labels that it had created before. Much the same if I wanted to manipulate my offsets a little bit, I could do that here too. But that's where I'm going to leave it for the blocks and the polylines. The next thing that I want to share is how we can label pipe networks using this tool. So when we're dealing with our pipe networks, we've got lots of different things to deal with. Our plan views have their own needs. It's probably just we're going to be interested in the name, station and offset data for some of that stuff, but we don't want a whole lot of invert info in our plan view. Yet in our profile view, now we've got the different existing conditions, the different proposed conditions, the slopes, the pipes and the structures, the existing and the proposed. All this kind of stuff is going to take me a long time. If I have the out of the box labeling scenario for my pipe networks, yeah, I can come in and I can select a pipe network using my contextual ribbon. I can run the add pipe networks labels command, but it's going to do everything for a network the same way in the same plan view. Yet, if I go check my prospector for these pipe networks, both my sanitary and my storm have existing part data listed out in that same network where they're connecting. Go check and we'll see the ones in my storm pipes, sort by category. I'll right click on those to select them, and here they are. They're part of the same network. So if I do the entire network using one single style, my existing and my proposed conditions are going to get conflated, and I still have to go back and manage those. Not with Label Genie. We go ahead and we'll launch Label Genie, and now we're going to look at our pipe network labels. We don't have a lot of actual data to work with in the usual interface, but I'm going to anchor these. I'll clear those out. I will get networks. Unfortunately, you do have to select them in plan view at this point, but that's not entirely unique. So there's my storm. And I'll grab a sanitary structure to get them just the whole network. Check that count, and we've got about 70. That's great. Still going to leave myself in profile view, still going to use those same view styles. And now in my formatting, though, I've got a lot of limited data. Where I'm looking at for my pipe networks is this concept of style mapping. So our Civil 3D part lists for both our pressure and our pipe networks are definitely worth considering. I'm not going to go through all of that stuff in the context of this webinar, but if you don't know a lot about your part list, you should really go through your template and check that out. These are the parts that you're going to use most often. Think of your part catalog as the entire internet. Think of your part list as your bookmarks bar, the stuff you're interested in for a specific context. So in my storm sewer, I have a part family for the concrete pipe. I'm using 18 through 36 inch sizes. They're all RCP. Some of them are existing, some of them are proposed. And I can come in and I can specify, hey, you know what? In plan view, I need my plan label. I can come in and I can just assign that right here inside the tool. And I'm going to get my existing plan labels put together for my existing situation. As far as my profile, I've got my proposed for my proposed. I've got my existing for the existing. The tool has done a little bit of that auto mapping for me. And then the other thing I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to come back into my style mapping. Right now, I only have my storm and I only have my sanitary. If I want to add parts, cancel. If I want to add a new part list to my drawing, I sure can. I'm going to say now I'm going to run the import part list command. Give it a minute to think. And now it's got the other standard part list and the water part list in here. Though this isn't quite what I wanted, because if I go look at my structures, I now have a ton of those random part family categories. Before that was a bit more tailored. So you can come through and you can remove individual parts, individual part families, pipe structures, whole part lists. No big deal. I'm just going to cancel to get back to what I had coming into here. And now in this profile view, I'm simply going to say add update labels, and all of my pipes, all of my structures are going to get their content. Added 137 labels. My existing label style for the profile has that italics. My proposed is in standard font. I'm also listing the length within my proposed label. I'm not listing the length, just the slope and the size for my existing stuff. So this would have taken me a good long while. I've got all of my sanitary stuff anchoring toward the bottom of my profile view. All of my proposed storm is showing up above those lists. I put that together in my label style. I mapped that label style through my part list situation. And by having that all set up ahead of time, the tool was able to very quickly go through and do that. I'll also run Label Genie on my pipe networks in plan view just to show off how that's going to work. Same deal, pipe networks, the anchor object, just changing the view type. And my style mapping is all set up. So I'll just say add update. And I'm going to get all 70 of those to show up. These are my plan view styles. Really just interested in calling them out in the name, maybe a little bit of length and material information on my pipes. The rest of that's going to get handled by my profile view when I create my plan and my profile sheets. So that's how we can use Label Genie for our plan view, for our profile view, and how we can deal with our pipe networks. One other situation I'm going to show off here is how we can deal with section view labeling using Label Genie. And now I'm going to take on the ability to load up a different label template. So I was working on this last night. Actually, I was working on this a while ago, wink, wink, for getting ready for my webinar. And now I'm like, all right, I want to go into section view, and I save those out into a common location, and I want to grab my multi-line text. I'm going to assign it to polylines, and I'm going to do it in cross-section. Note that I'm still looking at my plan view profile or my plan view pipe network. I'll say load, and now all of these other settings have been applied through the tool, all the way down to my formatting and my object type and my filter criteria. So now I'm looking for mtext. I'm going to build an mtext label. I'm going to anchor it to those vault polylines, but I'm doing it in section view. You know what? I'm not going to do polylines. I'm going to do hatches because my project's a little bit different this time. For those hatches, I'm going to go through. I'm going to select my C vault. Still looking in section view. And it's already got that layer picked out for me for what layer those sections are supposed to live on. In my formatting tab, I've got my display height put together. I've got all of this other stuff done. Since I'm going to be inside the hatch now, again, I'm going to add that background mask. Invalid. Oh, I should actually build the label. That would make some sense. So in this case, again, though, I'm just going to use the custom text. I don't need to read any of those fields. So I'll say vault. I'll add update, and it's going to put them in for me. There's my vault. If I wanted to really change any of the other offset information, I could do that. So let's go to Label Genie and just play with those offsets. I'm going to give this like a -7.5 because some of these have a little bit different sizes than the others. I'll leave it centered though with my X offset. And now all of those labels came in from the center of my line. I'll just draw a quick polyline in here. I will go from my insert of that vault, turn off my O snaps, drop that right on there. And this polyline is exactly 7.5 feet long, just like I asked my offset stuff to be. So the tool is recognizing all of that. Now, one thing that I learned when I was preparing for this webinar, within a version or 3 ago, I don't know exactly when that happened, Autodesk made our section views smarter. So one thing that people complain about if they try to add in mtext or fields or whatever, or multi-leaders, any type of secondary annotation that wasn't managed through your section view labeling or your code set, is that it used to move around if you, for whatever reason, moved your section view. Now, the tool is smart, or Civil 3D is smart enough that if you move your section view, it's going to keep track of all of the objects within that section view, and it's going to maintain their relative position when that view gets put down in its new place. So I still have that 7.5 foot centered -y offset on all those vault labels. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come through and I am going to save this out. So I started with my mtext on polylines in cross section. I'm going to create a new label scenario that I'm going to save this out, and I'm going to call this 201B mtext on hashes in cross section. Next time I want to come out with that scenario, all I have to do, pick it from my list and load it up. Where's the tool looking for these though? Well, you're going to find that in your in this upper ribbon. All of the tools have a very similar layout, including options. Some of them are very basic, but also with any of these tools where we have the ability to save or to load these templates, we have the ability to specify where we want that file path to be looking. Now, I just have mine pointed to my my Windows user directory, but you would be very much interested in pointing this toward your company CAD standards by default. So wherever the rest of your stuff lives on the network, maybe you're using one of those local deployments that I am so fond of. Or you can point this toward your project location. So all of your project specific labeling scenarios are really easy to find. You don't have to worry about that with other situations or with other projects. You're not accidentally mixing that data up. So now I can come back to this list and there's my 201B. I could load that up, put it in a different file with similar criteria, and we're off to the races. So that's our plan view, that's our profile view, that's our pipe networks, that's our basic polyline and mtext type stuff. Let's move into a subdivision workflow though. Not everyone's using pipe networks, though I'd say it's one of the more universal tools inside Civil 3D. Now I want to use Label Genie to get my subdivision kind of laid out. This is my 2D file. Maybe I'm surveying and I'm doing this as a plat toward the preliminary basis. Maybe I'm just marking out the geometrics plan for my lot. So I've got a lot of different situations I can come in and deal with. First up, I'm going to do my side lot lines and I'm going to add Civil 3D line and curve labels. So again, how big is this? Still just looking at my current drawing. I don't have any Xref data to worry about, and I'm staying in model space. What I'm creating is I'm going to create my line and curve label. I'm going to anchor these to some polylines. I have a specific layer dedicated to this, so I'll use my green pick cube. Another really great thing here, selection cycling. It's one of my favorite and I think it's underrated user variables. You either love it or you hate it. But when I have selection cycling turned on, when I hover my mouse over something and my pick box has multiple objects, I get this window available to me. So I get to pick exactly which one I want. The reason why there's three things here is I have my individual polyline, but then I have closed polylines on a different layer representing each lot. With selection cycling enabled, I don't have to constantly manage my draw order. I can hover over it. My properties palette is going to should update for me and give me more info. I can at least see my highlight preview on that, but I just want the lot line. It's my side lot lines layer. And checking that object count, I've got 122 of them in this drawing. So with those polylines, I'm going to anchor them to the segment. I'm going to do a line segment. I'm going to do a curve segment. These line and curve labels are pretty simple for what they have. My line style, I'm going to use a bearing over distance. My curve style, I'll do distance, radius, and delta. I do have the opportunity to flip them to or away from my centroid, or just all of them get the flip or none of them get the flip. I'll add update, and if I don't like what I see, it's not a big deal. I'll just lay those out, and the tool will update them for me. Here we go, coming across our southern lot. Most of these are due north and uniformly sized at about 178 feet long. And as we continue to move through, they all got automatically inserted at the midpoint of that line. Going through and putting that in manually would be a major chore. I wouldn't have them consistent. I'd have to constantly be doing my temporary snap menu or typing out my little mid snap to make sure that they went in correctly. It's going to take me a long time just to get these side lot labels in. Another thing that we can do is we can take advantage of mtext, and we can take advantage of our AutoCAD fields. Not everybody likes using Civil 3D parcels. They're a very interesting tool. They're very good for laying stuff out, but as far as the annotation is concerned, the reporting is concerned, the maintenance of them through our project, there's a lot of reasons not to use parcels. So after I got these side lot lines laid out, made some boundary polylines, didn't take me too long, and now those all live on a layer called full lots. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a block to take care of all of this. I actually have a block in my drawing. I've called it lot label, but there are two attributes in here. One of them is going to be my lot number. The other one is going to be the area for my lot. Another thing that I've done, the parcel tool is cool for being able to rename, or rather renumber, your different lots. So if we're going to have a lot number, we have to have a method for counting those and for choosing how that's going to go down. Well, I actually have a layer in this drawing. It's my no plot layer, where I went through and I just drew a polyline. I made sure my start point was where I wanted it to be. So southeast corner is going to be lot number 1. We're going to go around, come in to the inside here, go around that cul-de-sac, and then these lots on the east side, they have their own separate polyline where we're going to go north to increase, east, and then we're going to increase back again toward the south. So overall, let me just sketch on my screen here. In green, we're going to go this way, then we're going to go that way. So that green is not showing up very well. Let's try orange for this last one. Then we're going to go up, over, and then back down. So I'll rearrange those after I get these put in the first time, but let's run Label Genie. Let's get these blocks inserted. So this is one of the newer features. The label is a block. I'm not looking for a block. I'm not attaching to a block. I'm inserting block. What I'm going to anchor it to, though, are those polylines. On my full lots layer, I'll just reselect that for good measure. Got 125. That's very close to my side lot line count. I'm going to anchor them to the centroid. I wanted it in the middle of the lot, and we're sticking with plan view. As far as my formatting is concerned, because the block that I'm inserting has attributes in the top and on the right, that's where I'm choosing what my attribute is going to be. However, let me just wipe these both out. I don't have any data populating that attribute. Label Genie can push this data into an attribute for you, and it can push a lot of data into a single attribute. Now I don't need that much. So my first one is the lot number. My lot number, I'm going to use the counter field. With this count field, I actually now have an ellipse on that. So when I click on the ellipse of any one of these components inside Label Genie, it's going to give me more formatting options. So with this, I want to start my lot number at number 1. I'm going to go up by 1 for all of those. I do need to check what path I'm using. So this ellipse is going to give me access to a filter. With that, I'm going to use my pick cube to grab those. Every line that lives on the layer no plot is now going to get read by the tool. Just have the 2. So we'll say OK. And then for my area, this is where I'm going to come in and I'm going to use the M text field of polyline area. But my drawing is currently set to be feet. Square feet is not a bad way to go through and list out your data. However, it's not always the unit that we want to use. So when I have my formatting, I can change, I can use whatever my drawing units are, or I can go through and do a little bit of an override. I have a lot of precision in the drawing right now based on my AutoCAD unit setting. So I'm going to manually override these to a decimal with 1 precision. And I know this doesn't often happen in a lot labeling scenario, but I don't want to write out the decimal for 1 divided by the acre number of 43,560. So I'm going to do square yards, which is 1/9. However, you do have to type this in as a decimal. So 1/9 is 0.1 repeating, and I'll give that 4 decimals. I get a suffix option too. So you can do this in the out of the box fields. I could either add this as a separate component, but that's a little data inefficient. So now for my suffix, I'm going to enter in that space character and I'm going to type in manually capital SY. So every label that this gets populated with is going to give me the number in square yards. And then as part of the field, after the final decimal of my square yards, it's going to say space SY in exactly this. I could even add in a thousands separator if I really wanted to. So with all those settings in place, I'm going to say OK. I'm choosing that lot label definition. It's reading those attributes I've written out to those attributes. Let's add, let's update. Let's see how this is going to work. All right. Well, Clearly, I started my polyline here in the southeast corner of my site. And as I continue to move through, here we're at 39, then we go to 52, we jump across, here's 53, all the way down the line. If I create, or if I set this layer to be my current layer, so I'll make that no plot layer current, I will delete this path polyline over there for my counter. Let's run Label Genie, see how it responds to that lack of an input. It still had them, but the numbering of these labels over here didn't do a very good job. And it actually had some duplicates with other parts inside the drawing. So I am going to draw a new line. We'll reverse that order. All I have to do, basically, I'm drawing a selection fence to go through in here. And now with my Label Genie, I'm just going to confirm for my lot numbering what that counter is doing. It's starting at 1, it's incrementing in 1. We'll say okay, we'll add update. And now I should have label 1 down here, 52, 53, 97. Actually, it looks like it restarted that lot count with my new line. So one line is going to give you one set of counters in there. If I really wanted that to continue, I would have extended this line and drawn it all the way around. This is a new block, so that's really not that out of the ordinary that I'd want to have a slightly different numbering system associated with that. But that's how I can go through and create a ton of different labels. Maybe I'm interested in using this for my subdivision. Let's see, what else did we have to cover? Let's get into some of the grading stuff. Time's wearing on. We've got some grading things to deal with. So I'm gonna go move over to the 3D version of this file where now I have a bunch of different feature lines in here. I created this using one of our other tools in the suite, Auto Grader. Does a really great job of helping out with these subdivision workflows. Just adds in elevation points so that we can grade those out. It'll even add in building pads as feature lines if you have those in your drawing spec'd out as well with various elevation points inserted, and then it's going to grade those and do a lot of really cool math on it, add it to your surface. That's a separate webinar. We're here to label. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to label my surface. I'm going to label it with spot elevations, and I'm going to anchor it to my feature lines. Those feature lines are not going to be my curb and gutter. They're going to be my side lots. And I'm actually gonna throw an asterisk because I have various scenarios. I have walkout basements, I have full basements, I have hybrid basements. And on these, I'm only gonna anchor basically my points. I don't want any midpoints, but I'll take any other vertex that I can find. Got those number of side lot lines, so that tracks. And then for my required object, for my surface, the surface that I'm going to label is going to be my finished grade site, but not for my commercial building, rather for my subdivision, which is being found. So that's good. Now over here in my formatting tab, because I'm doing spot elevations, that's the type of label. So which label style, which marker am I going to use? I have an opportunity to offset it. I'll stick with it unoffset for now. I'll add a 45-degree offset or a 45-degree rotation, and I can even orient this to my object specifically, or I can orient it to my view, or I can say world coordinate system up is up. So actually, I'll start with a 0 rotation oriented to object, because that's an interesting way to see how the tool's working. We're going to get 479 labels, like 3 or 4 labels for all 122 of them. So that's a decent number. And now, this is my spot label. Every feature line that has a vertex is going to create a spot label specific to our finished grade subdivision. So the label type was a surface label, but we got to pick where we wanted that to go. That's what the anchor object methodology is doing, is it's giving a lot of flexibility toward how we want those to go down. A couple of other options that we can do with this. Let me go show you what those corner lots look like, or the sideways lots look like. Because this was 0 degrees to the object, the anchor object was the feature line. The feature line has varying That's the bearing of the long axis of the label. So with Label Genie here, I'll do now 45 degrees to our view. I will rotate the marker as well. We'll add, we'll update. We'll see the little difference. Now, these corner lots aren't going to look super great, but all these other north-south oriented ones, they will. Our marker also took on that 45 degrees. When I'm using a Civil 3D label, if I add in an offset, I don't think I did much of that with AutoCAD stuff, but if I add in an offset, we'll go +3 -2. What this is going to do is it's going to automatically throw that label into a dragged state. So with that drag state, hold on, that was not what I wanted. Recalculating. Well, my surface labels aren't taking care of that. I'll find another situation to deal with that drag state. Let's do that general note for our alignments. General note labeling the alignment name. So quick detour. I'm going to create a Civil 3D general note. I'm going to anchor it to an alignment, or rather all of my alignments, because they all share the same style. Oh, wrong drawing. Sorry, I'm going to stay focused. I'm going to work on my surface stuff now. Apologies for the running around. With our surface, though, we can also do slope labels. We can do 2-point, 1-point. The other thing I want to show off is our ability to do contour labeling on a Civil 3D surface. So this is a really big deal for making sure that we can see those in all of our different areas. So my anchor object is going to be auto-populated. I don't get much choice for that. My anchor point, though, is for a vertex. I can do an interval along every single contour. So it's going to read every contour, and every contour is going to get it 200 feet along that contour. And I'll just do my majors at a 50 foot and my minors at 200, just to show off that those can go down differently. Though I will show you what those formatting options are by re-entering the tool right away. Formatting, so I didn't want existing, I wanted proposed on everything. No big deal. I just come back in and flip these. The tool's going to update them. It's going to make life easy. Propose labels by user. Perfect. So now for these, it's a little bit cleaner up here. I can see I had a 50-foot interval for my majors. I had a 200-foot interval for my minors. And that is going to be about that distance. If I draw a quick polyline, I'll go insert to insert. It's not going to be perfect because that's a curvy line and mine is simply a straight line. But that is just under 200 feet long. So that was every 200 feet along that particular contour and every 50 feet along my major. Yeah, it's about 47. So that's how the along interval works. The other one that I want to show you is doing a grid. So with these anchor points now, I'll turn off my interval, I'll turn on my grids, and I'll even offset them. So my vertical is going to go every 100 feet, my horizontal is going to go every 50. Same formatting controls over here. Note though, it's not deleting my spot elevations. It's not deleting those because I've got a consistent, or rather the tool only deletes them when we create different filtering criteria. Because I'm no longer creating spot elevation labels, it's no longer trying to update those. It's only worrying about the contours. So we go find some lines where we have data coming in. Here is a grid line. that I found. I'll turn on my ortho mode to kind of show that off. I'll make this magenta. So everywhere I see this happening, I should see about a label get placed there. I'll also run one of these on my horizontal. Make that magenta. If I offset these by 100, I'll see, hey, there's my every 100 feet on that vertical grid, yet my horizontal grid was set to every 50. So if I offset 50 in either direction, I should see a whole bunch of labels wherever that polyline crosses. Now, it is not doing one long multi-label line. It's inserting individuals with that single contour command. These grids are created by the tool, and then they're not read. They're not displayed by the user. They're mathematically handled. So I'm creating these simply for display purposes. Those polylines don't actually exist in my drawing. The last thing that I want to do is show you how we can label multiple objects across multiple different drawings all at one time. So in these final two files, I've actually gone through and done my plan production. I have data references for my Civil 3D surfaces. I have external references for a lot of my different pieces of line work, like this right-of-way line work and all those side lot lines. Those are coming in through an Xref. I have two layouts in here. Drawing number 1, layouts 1 and 2 are representing the north half of my site. The other drawing B, has layouts 3 and 4, which are looking at the south portions of my site. So I'm going to run Label Genie. It's going to look specifically for viewports. My first drawing will only get labels in the north. My second drawing will only get labels in the south. How we're going to do that is we're going to run Label Genie. Now, I'm interested in more than just my current drawing. I want to include additional. I'm going to run the plus sign to go out, find my project, and go get all of the rest of my planned production DWGs. So in this case, it's just the other one. This include Xref checkbox is for the filtering. It will not open the tool, or the tool will not open that drawing. It will not add labels to the Xref, but we can filter, we can find our polylines, we can find our blocks through that Xref. And now I'm going to label just the layouts in those particular ones. I'll get all the viewports. I don't need to do any sort of layer filtering for that, though I can only get, I can do individual layouts. I can even filter for layouts that, viewports rather, that live on a specific layer. Don't need to worry about that right now. I'll do the alignment, station, and offset. I'll anchor that to blocks. I will find all of the blocks within the lots 2D. So it's going to be indiscriminate. It's going to grab my trees and my lights and my deciduous and my coniferous. But it's just saying, hey, we found one Xref in each of those that matched. It's the same command. I've got my centroid of the block. My alignment is going to be not by name because we have multiple names. I'm going to go by style. Okay, fine. I will go by name. Style. All right, I guess we're just doing evergreen right now. Evergreen has been data referenced in both of those, so that's great. For my formatting, I'm going to leave this pretty straightforward. I've got a station and offset Civil 3D label already put together. I'll update. Why is this not listing? Do it on the insertion point. Go by layer. All right, that is layer Xref. I'll type it in manually. No big deal. Almost done here, folks. This will be my last workflow exercise. Then I'll go to the conclusion, and we can stick around for any other questions that people might have. Entire model, all layouts, all viewports, alignment station offset, blocks, layer, Xref. Alignments, evergreen, formatting, check. All right, folks, there's a button here that I'm missing somewhere. I hate to do this to you, but it can be done. I'm missing something and we are just out of time. So definitely check it out. The CTC tools are a really great tool. Even if we weren't able to do all of these drawings all at once, I hope I've been able to show you the power of this tool, even when we're within one single drawing, about how many different labels we can create and how much easier and how much faster life can be with this tool. So in conclusion, Label Genie is a tool that automates the creation, the population, and the formatting of many of our Civil 3D and AutoCAD-based annotations. Label Genie uses filtering and criteria-based information to hone in on exactly what needs to be done. This is going to encourage your users to follow your CAD standards. It's going to encourage your management to develop those CAD standards. And it's going to get us from that 0% mark to that 80% mark that much faster. Just make a handful of tweaks instead of doing thousands of clicks to get that project annotated. With Label Genie, those options are stored within each drawing for easy iteration. Every drawing, when you reload the tool, it's going to remember those last settings. But we've got those templates which we can save and we can load between projects to apply those labeling operations on those different objects on those different projects. Store them in a specific project, store them in with our CAD standards, wherever you need them, they're there to be found, to be read. Don't forget, folks, to subscribe to ATG on social media. We've got our LinkedIn page and our YouTube page where this webinar will be posted very shortly, as well as the rest of ATG's webinar library, available for free for everybody. And thank you so much, folks, for your time today. I really appreciate it. My name is Kyle Groves. My email is right here below. It was also on the title slide. If you have any questions, please, now is the time to ask them. Thanks again, team. Have a great rest of your day. Be safe, be well. So as I mentioned, I'll stick around here for a few minutes if any of those questions are coming through. Josiah, what did you think? Have you seen this tool before? Okay. Did you see how this tool might be able to save you a little bit of time or at least a headache or two? Awesome. Well, for anyone else who's still around, or perhaps if this gets included in the public recording, you can check out these tools. I like to direct folks to CTC's website directly, ctcsoftware.com. From here, you'll go to the products banner, find your product of choice. In this case, we're talking about the CIM Project Suite. And from here, you can go to download your trial. It's free for 14 days, full functionality. There is no any sort of ransomware or whatever else going on. Also, you can download the sample files so you can follow along. A lot of those sample files were what I used today. Or if you look at the other webinars from CTC and ATG, you can follow along, try it out on yourself, see what you think. Since I'm not seeing any other questions, I guess I'll hang out for just a little bit longer. One more time, folks, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.